All right, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Thursday the 22nd. So we started the day. It's kind of been a similar pattern that's been playing out here. I wish I had something new to say, but clearly there's been a noticeable pattern that's been taking place one, two, three, four of the last days. So we've got S&P. We're kind of sitting below the 50-day moving average. We seem to be holding in here. If you remember how we ended up last night, it was pretty ugly. We had some volatility that hit pretty hard at the end of the day, and last night you had all kinds of people tweeting about futures levels who don't trade futures, but they tweet about them. I don't know why, but it doesn't really. So by the time we came in this morning, we recovered. We recovered all of that tweeting of the weakness in the S&P futures, and we had again just similar pattern, and we talked about this in the trading room today. What to kind of do with this as we're getting this now, and I'll just kind of show you again as we talked about this yesterday. But it's kind of been the same thing. So here's Friday, 12 o'clock. So high of the day was 12.25. Tuesday, this was 12.15. High of the day. Then we had yesterday, which was Wednesday. Of course, that went a little further. I think 210 was the high of the day. So it went a little bit further, which gave you a little bit further of a shakeout. Closed on the lows. And then today we opened up. We managed to rally quite nicely. This time we did not get above value, but right around this time was a little bit earlier, 11:55. So, what we've been doing in the trading room and what I went over today in our midday session. Which, by the way, if you don't hear me or see me tweet during middle of the day, it's because I'm giving live sessions, so sometimes I just don't do that. But basically, what we've been doing is is looking at the VIX, and today, sure enough, I mean, you can look at the S&P too to turn, but it's kind of a little bit neater to see once the VIX, and once this starts to creep up, we saw two quick bars, and it's like, hey, what I said is, hey, if we get above 1850, we get back above 1850 in the VIX today, we have the chance to have more of the same, and certainly we did that. We came back in. It wasn't basically a straight line down today. You could see the VIX kind of gave it back up, and then we saw the biggest green bar of the day. So this was all after the auction, and it seems to be, we've had several bond auctions this week, and it seems to be the volatility in equities picks up around, not only yesterday was the Fed minutes, but also around these bond auctions. It doesn't appear that the market is really, the equities are liking what's going on in the bond market. I think at some point TLT. So anyway, Pat, before I change the screen here with the VIX, you could see after hours we are kind of giving this up. So let's say a little bit different pattern than yesterday. You could see we are coming back here after hours. So I don't think you can really jump to conclusions too much, other than a green bar. Maybe this is starting to work its way through. I would be looking for, at this point, a close at least close to the highs, and also for us to retake the 50-day moving average. This is non-dividend adjusted. Also a couple noticeable things on some smaller time frames. Notice we've been hanging around this 2707 level. We fell into it. We fell into the value area yesterday. We reclaimed it today, and then gave it back. So, what I've been saying as well is just if you're day trading, kind of have a ball. And if you're good at day trading, which a number of traders are very good in the Tribeca Trade Group, trading room, and are doing very well day trading, and basically knowing when to get out of positions using that VIX that I showed before, it's been a great little place to day trade back and forth. If you're swing trading, and I think I said this in yesterday's video, I certainly said it today in the room, you kind of have to, you don't really want to be adding during the day. You want to be waiting until the end of the day to see how things are are materializing. So if you're more of a swing trader, unfortunately, it's kind of just been sitting on your hands and seeing how it goes, because you certainly don't want to put a new position on around 11 o'clock, which is, or 12 o'clock, which is the highs of the day, and just by default, by doing that, you're going to be down on the day, which is the outcome that we've seen the last three or 4 days. So that's basically all you can do, and just look for where there's strength in the market. NASDAQ, same thing. You could see, well, similar. We've gotten into value here. We touched the top of value, and we did that as well. I think, yes, was it yesterday, I guess? But we're holding this top of value. So Q's look at, not today, it did not have the strength today, which is good, by the way, to see energy. Energy was the leading sector today, so it's good to see energy kind of pick up a little bit after today's Department of Energy numbers, which showed a small drawdown, which at this point is good news. But you could see NASDAQ is holding the bottom of value, so this is definitely been where the strength is. Just today, not so much. What did the Qs finish? Qs finished flat. SPY finished up 10 basis points. So what else? A couple other things. We might as well just look at IWM as well while we've got these major charts up. Notice I really haven't been talking about single stock names that much. I mean, there's certainly different areas that I've been watching that I think are interesting. I've been looking at McDonald's to see if it turns here. It's been showing a little bit of strength. Not yet. It needs to reclaim that 200-day moving average. That's non-dividend adjusted. That's a couple names. In terms of option activity, and it's kind of been the same thing, the same pattern. We are seeing some call buying in the beginning of the day. Right out of the gate, we saw some XLE calls, so there was some buying in energy. Hess was another name that we saw some calls the other day. Hess closed close to the high of the day, so not a bad looking chart here in Hess. Also XOP, which I was looking at possibly going long this, and then I just said, hey, I don't like the close. Hess looks actually a lot better, so I might wait one more day. I did not add a position today in XOP, but in regard to my cash position, which is doing really well right now, outperforming the S&P beautifully in February and in January this year. So just being conservative and kind of waiting for the right signal. I mentioned this. I was like, hey, I've got my eye on XOP reclaiming the 200-day moving average, but clearly you could see it stopped short of that. What I did do today at the end of the day was I put on a position in REMX. This is the rare earths ETF. This is a position that I was in earlier in the year. I got stopped out on the 50-day moving average and back in on the reclaim here. And I like this chart because if you kind of go back and look at over time, this has really gotten beaten up from 110 all the way down to $10 and sitting at 30. So you zoom in, and I think it's a good spot to go long versus the 50-day moving average. And again, I like these nice easy trades where if it happens to break back down below the 50-day moving average, I can get out with relatively very little pain. Again, that's what it's all about, right? A couple other trades that were interesting today. There was a few. Today. Skyworks, a couple Skyworks trades came in today. This is not a bad looking chart. There was one that was calls bought. I guess I could take this out because I have it twice. There's some calls bought for tomorrow that went up early in the morning, and then there were some May 150 calls that went up in Skyworks. So it's gotten a little bit. We are still seeing a little bit of call buying in the semi space, but it's not nearly as big as it was. This name's now above the 200-day moving average. It does not look bad in Skyworks. I did not take this trade. I really did not put on. I don't think I did not put on any new option positions today. Again, just kind of waiting and trying to sit on your hands and waiting for this volatility to kind of come back in. Going back to this, the last thing I will say is I've certainly talked a lot about volatility, but if this thing starts to get back to where it was, if it gets back into at least under 17, I think that not a full green light, but I think that would be a decent amount of confirmation if we happen to drift down below 17. I think that would be good. And then of course a close on the highs. So trying to keep it as simple as possible. But Cypress is a name where we've seen calls a couple times now. A few other names that we saw some Boyd Gaming calls. The name just completely fell flat on its face, but there was a lot of March 36 calls that went up. Micron, which has been continuous, we saw some more March calls that went up. Facebook in the morning. Again, most of these orders, even if you scale all the way down to here, was probably all before 11 o'clock this morning. Walmart, I would probably say that was the trade of the morning. A few traders played this. It looks like it's got some support back here. 200-day moving average is down here. I don't have the 100-day moving average on this chart, but the 100-day moving average is like right in here. I was looking at this earlier. So there is some support from the last, not obviously this earnings, but the last time it reported earnings. And it looks like somebody marked their spot and went long some Walmart right in here today. And it did have a nice reaction. And I think some traders in the room today did very well with that trade today. A few other trades that hit in the afternoon. You could see for the afternoon trades, which is probably here. I guess that NXPI hit here. Very, very quiet in the afternoon. There was a little bit of win calls. May 175s. Win was down today. I'm not really sure what the story was, but there was a decent Las Vegas Sands put buyer, not Walmart, sorry, Win. There's a decent put buyer in Las Vegas Sands, which really got hit. I guess I'll have to look for that story a little bit later. But kind of took down all the casinos with, I think Las Vegas Sands got hit the hardest. But you could see right when Win was down about 1.6%, call buyer comes in pretty aggressively. Whoops. I don't want Wyndham, I want Win. And you can see this trade that went up. May 175 calls. Nice size trade, $500,000 in premium. And then we started to see a couple other trades that went up. I mentioned the Skyworks one that also went up around the same time as Win. IAC. Oops, IAC. You can check out the chart. Nothing wrong with this chart, really. It's close to the 52-week high. We've seen calls go up before in IAC on a 52-week high. This was all the way up to July calls, but again, a nice sizable looking trade. Looks like this was not labeled as a sweep, but July 160 calls. This is a 729,000 option premium trade. So like I said, a couple late day trades that went up in very select names. IAC, and I think there was one other. Whoops, don't need this. There may have been one other trade at the end of the day. There's some eBay. I think that was it. There's a little bit of Exxon calls as well in the energy space. Also, APC calls went up in the afternoon. APC also does not look like a bad-looking chart, in my opinion. You got the 50-day moving average support. Faded at the, again, like a lot of candles that we're seeing. But pretty sharp, aggressive call buyer in APC. A couple other interesting trades in the fixed income space. Take a look at EMB. We saw a lot of puts being bought a couple weeks ago. This is emerging market bonds. So somebody thinking that this continues to go lower. There is a VPOC down here at 109. But big chunky trade that went up right at the end of the day. I think about the last 15-20 minutes. Big block of calls in the emerging market bond ETF. Looks like Thinkorswim is thinking about it. This was the March 117 put, so it looks like they were in the money. But yeah, where's this trading? 111 right now. But yeah, look at this. Look at the size of this trade. $5.5 million opening trade, in the money trade. Somebody's looking for EMB to keep going lower. There was also some, in staying in the investment, not investment grade, but staying in the corporate bond space. EMB again is corporate bonds and emerging markets. HYG. I have to check open interest on this one. This was another trade that went up at the end of the day. $940,000 of premium. But it may be an unwind. It says opening here, but the open interest is exactly 20,000. So March 86 calls. HYG is another area that's just gotten really beaten up. that also gave a pretty good signal. One of the traders in the room was has been using the weakness in HYG to basically buy puts in select names and in equities, and has been doing pretty well with that technique. But HYG is broke the 200-day moving average, has had a little bit of a bounce, but looks like that bounce got faded, and who knows, maybe headed back here. But we'll see. I would say I would not be playing this for a bounce unless you start to see a little bit of confirmation first. And again, I'll need to check the open interest for that tomorrow, because this could be an unwind. All right, so that's it for now. I think I mentioned all the trades so far, the most aggressive trades. But I think it's, again, just have to kind of take things a day at a time. And again, for someone who like myself, who's a swing trader, just kind of sit and be patient. We really haven't retraced that much. It's a big difference between holding options right now and cash equity positions. If you're holding just straight stock positions in cash, you're really not phased by this too much the last couple of days. It just looks like some consolidation. It's definitely been a weak tape. However, if you're holding option positions, you're going to take a beating. The more chop you have the more chop that you have on the tape, the worse that your option positions, unless you're selling premium right now. If you're taking directional plays, you're sitting through some pain. So just a difference of strategy. If you think this is going to continue for a little while, you lighten up on those option positions and wait for a little bit of confirmation. All right, thanks for watching today's video. Have a great night, and see you tomorrow.